this lawsuit, James Wiseman against the NCAA, it would result in a suspension regardless. And I think that if they continue to play James Wiseman, they could be hit with additional penalties. So I think at the end of the day, they thought of it as say, okay, the NCAA has deemed Penny Hardaway a booster. He gave money to James Wiseman's family, and then Wiseman enrolled at the booster school. So regardless of whether he coached him in an AAU, things like that, at the end of the day, that's a penalty. And he was going to be suspended. Nick Emery at BYU, he accepted about $12,000 2 summers ago, and he was suspended for 9 games. So I think Memphis saw this coming and said, hey, let's get ahead of this. Let's rule him ineligible now, as opposed to continuing to play him. Because this goes back, like you said, this goes back to a $1 million donation in 2008 that Penny Hardaway gave to Memphis. And at that time and since then, he's been considered a booster. And him giving money to James Wiseman and then Wiseman enrolling at Memphis, that is illegal under the NCAA rules. Regardless of him coaching in AAU, him coaching in high school, him becoming the head coach now, it's a booster giving money to the family of a prospect, and that is going to be a penalty. And I think that Memphis realized that if we continue to play him after the NCAA has told us a couple of times now that he's likely ineligible, we could be hit with additional penalties. And if this dragged out until the tournament,
Right.
we could be talking postseason ban. We could be talking a lot of different things. And so I think Memphis said, hey, let's get this done. I'm assuming the way that the statements read that he withdrew his lawsuit and they're talking to the
Right.
NCAA, I'm guessing a penalty is coming pretty soon. So I think that Memphis said, all right, let's just deal with the penalty now as opposed to what happens in a few months.
Okay, Wiseman seems to be caught in the middle of this in some ways. What are you hearing about what he's saying in all of this?
I mean, according to Memphis, he didn't know about the payment to his family back when he moved from Nashville to Memphis in the summer of 2017. Penny Hardaway's statements after the first game, after the second game, after he was ruled ineligible, made it seem like Wiseman wanted to play. But his lawyers said, hey, Wiseman reached out to us today, said he wanted to withdraw the lawsuit. And so I'm guessing Wiseman's on board with all this. It seems like Memphis, Wiseman's family are all in lockstep right now.
All right, so what's next?
We sort of have to wait for the NCAA. The Memphis said they were going to apply for reinstatement. Once that happens, it's on the NCAA to either rule him ineligible, rule him eligible, give him a suspension. So we're all sort of waiting. My guess is that there's going to be some sort of restitution on the $11,500 that Hardaway gave to Wiseman's family as moving expenses back in 2017. And then, like I said, Nick Emery got a 9-game suspension a couple of summers ago for $12,000 in special benefits. My guess is that the suspension for Wiseman will be around the same thing.
All right, Jeff Borzello, all over this story. Jeff, thank you so much. Now let's bring in ESPN basketball analyst Jay Bilas to talk more on this. Now, Jay, you and I, we're both lawyers, and I look at this particular situation. I say, okay, he has a lawsuit, and then he drops the lawsuit, and then he's ruled ineligible. From the outside looking in some ways, you would think, why drop the lawsuit in that case if you're going to be ruled ineligible?
Well, Ryan, I've spoken with James Wiseman's attorneys in this matter, and the lawsuit was dropped because the NCAA told Wiseman's lawyers and told Memphis that they wouldn't entertain a resolution of this matter while a lawsuit was pending. So the case was, they called it non-suited, but basically dismissed without prejudice and could be refiled if they're unable to reach a resolution of this. But once the lawsuit was essentially dismissed, then Memphis, as is per usual in these type of eligibility cases, declared the player ineligible and then applies for reinstatement. Now, there are a couple things going on here. One, Memphis was in discussions with the NCAA about trying to resolve this case. That's why the NCAA told them, we're not going to do anything until the lawsuit is dismissed, and we're not going to do anything while there's any pending case. But there's also a saber-rattling thing going on here because the NCAA could start a separate infractions case against Memphis for playing an ineligible player. So there already could be an agreement in place with a wink and a nod saying, look, if you dismiss this case, here's how we see it playing out, and it would be something short of 9 games. In an $11,500 matter, that's a third of the season, which in basketball, a 27-game regular season would be 9 games. So they could have already said, hey, we see this coming down something less than that and come to a resolution of it, and then they'll go from here. But the NCAA basically said, look, we are not doing anything while there's a pending case going on. So unless you dismiss this, we're not entertaining a resolution of this, and still had the option to put a separate infractions case on Memphis for playing an ineligible player, essentially bylaw 1913, the restitution rule, where they could really hit Memphis hard for knowingly playing an ineligible player.
You know, you mentioned on the ESPN Daily podcast that Memphis was basically giving the NCAA the middle finger by playing him all this time. What do you make of this change? I understand that it might be, hey, a wink and a nod deal, but it is a far cry from what they were doing before and what they are doing now. What do you make of that change from Memphis's perspective?
Yeah, the President Rudd of Memphis came out and said that they were gonna fight this and all that, and clearly they're going the normal route. Like, the ball is back in the NCAA's court now, so this is being determined according to NCAA rules and NCAA procedures. Now, whether there's been a discussion as to here's where we see it coming out between Memphis and the NCAA. But now this is like we talked about before. It's a garden variety NCAA eligibility issue. Now, Penny Hardaway isn't just deemed a booster because of this $2008 million gift. Mm-hmm. There are a number of different ways that he qualifies as a booster. This is very unusual. I felt that this was a pretty clear case as far as NCAA rules go and how they're applied and interpretations go. That doesn't mean that Wiseman would not have prevailed in court, and it's not a no-brainer that the case would have been removed to federal court, as you know, whether it's subject matter jurisdiction, diversity jurisdiction. It's not a no-brainer. It could have stayed in the state courts in Tennessee, and who knows how it would have come out. But as far as the NCAA procedures are concerned, it's pretty clear. It's going to be look, they're in a 9-game area. And if the parties decide that it's something less, there are mitigating factors, right, they decide to have it less, that's what it'll be.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app, and live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.